Little did I know, as I walked down this trail with Deb 48 years ago, that I would be cruising Still the One, my Sundancer 380, down the Tennessee River, south on the Tombigbee known as the Tin Tom, and southeast across the Gulf of Mexico to Tampa Bay. My desire is to document this trip, to share with my family, because they are still the one to me. And if you'd like to come along on my journey as well, I hope you will enjoy.
Still the one that turns my head. We're still having fun, and you're still the one.
So, what I want to do with this video is basically recap the trip. First of all, I'm in a Sea Ray Sundancer 380 with twin 8.1 Merc Cruisers. I'm told that these were one of the best engines that Merc Cruiser put in older boat, the original when they came out. They're fuel injected, internally cooled, but do have, water going through the exhaust system to cool the engine as well. Apparently the water, from what I've been told, is the water comes in, cools the radiator, if you will, and then that keeps parts of the engine cool. My mechanic back at Island Cove says 160 degrees is what he wants to see, and I can say that the entire trip, the boat stayed right at 160. I never saw it drop below 160, and I never saw it go above like 164, 165, maybe not even that, and that was when I was running 24 to 26 miles an hour at 3,400 RPMs to 3,800 RPMs. I never once ran the boat at top speed, just not necessary, and I've talked to some folks along the way, and one gentleman told me he blew his engine up running at top speed. The boat operated perfect the entire trip. The only thing that I lost operation of in the entire trip is steering. But as you probably already know, you can steer these boats three ways. You can steer them with the engines, and that's either low speed or high speed, because if you have it going straight, then you just give one engine more power than the other one and you can turn the boat. At idle speed, you only use the transmissions to operate the boat. Occasionally, rarely, probably 3 or 4 times I used the steering wheel. And then there's the autopilot. Well, the autopilot worked perfect the entire time. As a matter of fact, I would get to a marina, forget to turn the autopilot off, and I'm trying to make it turn around, and it's fighting me. And eventually I hear the beeping, the autopilot screaming, saying, "What are you doing, you moron? Help me." So I go turn it off, and then straighten the rudders, and then it would respond like I want it to. But I ran the entire trip, probably 99% of the trip, on the autopilot. And the way the autopilot works is it goes straight to a degree on the compass. And if you want to turn to the starboard or right, then you punch a button that says 10 degrees to the starboard, or 10 degrees to the port, or 1 degree. You can do 1 degree or 10 degrees with this particular autopilot, and it will take you that direction. And basically what I would do is I would watch my line on the Navionics chart, and I would just adjust it right or left, depending on the turn, to stay right on the line as much as possible. I'd get distracted every now and then, and I might end up offline, but fortunately never to the point that I hit anything or ran aground. So right before I got into Mobile, and I think it's probably when I did touch the bottom, that the steering ram broke, and it just basically, the seal broke and I lost the oil out of it. So the steering became free and there was no steering. But that was repaired by Saunders, who did a great job for me, and they found a steering ram, had it brought in, installed it, and it's been working great since. But the boat just performed fantastic. I can't be more pleased with the way the boat performed. I would say that the only thing that wasn't absolutely perfect is the starboard engine for some reason will not start that first time. There must be some part in that engine that's weak that will not allow it to start and stay running the first time. It takes 2 times to start the engine. Port engine, no problem. They both used a little bit of oil. The port engine used probably twice as much oil as the starboard engine did. And I think I put 2 quarts of oil in the starboard engine for the whole trip and 4 quarts of oil in the port engine for the entire trip. Anyway, so the boat just operated really good, and I really enjoyed everything about it. The transmissions shifted smoothly. I still struggle with getting them in sync perfectly, and it's like tap, 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 trying to get them in sync. And I'm sure I'll get better at that as we go along. But that's one area of weakness in my part. The other is the lashing at idle from the transmissions. Now, the folks at Irwin did a tune-up on the engine, said that would take care of most of it. Unfortunately, it did not. Every mechanic I've talked to from Tennessee all the way to Florida saying the same thing about these transmissions, is that inherent lashing or rattling of the gears when they're at low speeds. They claim that there are certain parts that may be not operating up to spec, and as a result that allows that looseness in the gears, which allows the rattling. But the minute you move them up to 800, 900 RPMs, it goes away. It's like they grab and, they're in gear then. They're always, when you put them in gear, they're in gear. But so no slipping. I mean, at 25 miles an hour, 26 miles an hour, you would think that boat was brand new. But according to the folks at Island Cove, there is a burn rate of oil in these engines, and so that's normal. According to the survey I had done, both engines were tested, and they both came back green. No metal in the oil, and in good shape as far as the tests are concerned. I've also been told that the big problem with losing the engines in these boats is the manifold. And if you have an older boat and it still has the original manifolds, if you're in a freshwater condition, then they recommend that you consider swapping the manifolds out. And if you're in a saltwater position, take them out immediately. Say you take a freshwater boat that's got the old manifolds in it and they come to saltwater, replace them immediately, because when they go, they take the engines with them. Let's talk about the bottoms for a minute. So Saunders were awesome. I got there on a Tuesday. They had the boat up on the hard within an hour. They had it power washed within another hour. They had it sandblasted to etch it, they said, within another hour. And by 2 o'clock that afternoon, they were preparing it for paint. And they were just right on it and moving. And they had said they were going to take a week to do it, and I said, that was great, because Deb and I were trying to figure out how to get back down, for her to get back down, spend another weekend on the boat. And then the weekend that we wanted to spend on the boat was the weekend between Orange Beach and Panama City, and do those stops. And she was going to go home, spend a week with her family, and so it didn't look like it was going to work out. But when I got the boat on the hard and they started working on it, and I asked the guy in charge, I says, when do you think you can get it done? He said, well, I believe I can get it done by Friday. So we started making plans to have Deb come back down with me on Friday, and that was going to work out with her week off for fall break. And I kept in touch throughout the week, because they were going to try to figure out the steering situation, and they found out about this. I saw them. I took pictures and showed it to them of the oil or the grease, whatever you want to call it, in the bottom of the boat. And they said that, they checked it out, found out they could fix it, found out they could get the part, thought they could get it down, but it's going to cost more to get it shipped overnight. I said, absolutely do it. So Friday when we got back, the boat was in the water, everything was done. We were ready to go. So the next morning, met the neighbor, and we left out and went to Treasure Island Harbor Walk Marina. Fast forward to Panama City. We get to Panama City. We got a chance to go out to Shell Island, a place we love to go. So we went out there and anchored the boat, and gave me a chance to look under the boat, because I wanted to see the bottom, see how it looked. So put my phone in one of these pouches and went up underneath, started taking video. And got the phone out, got the pouch out, started looking at video. All of a sudden, there's spot where paint was coming off. Oh, great, really great. Fast forward, got with Saunders. They said, we're gonna take care of it, don't worry about it. You know, where you going? Of course, they'd hoped they could do it at their shop, but I was already 5 hours away, 6 hours away on the boat. And I didn't want to, you know, stop my progress there. So they agreed to, you know, take care of it wherever it was. Anyway, so made it to Tarpon Springs, Madeira Marina, pulled in, boat works, I went there on purpose, and immediately they were hospitable, knew I was, you know, had an issue and needed to get taken care of pretty quickly. I'd already made arrangements to stay there for 4 or 5 days to go home, watch, I think it was Marissa play soccer. So they pulled it out, and of course I called James, I think it is, at Saunders, and said, hey, we're gonna have it pulled out. And he said, okay, just let me know, we'll take care of it. I said, okay. So they pulled it out, and first thing as soon as they pulled it out, we were in awe. The bottom on that boat looked flawless. Flawless. There was one little chip where I'd hit something apparently. I don't remember hitting it, but it was a little chip in the boat. And the folks at Mar were just amazed that the props still had the paint on them. You know, that's usually the first thing that comes off is the paint on the props. And the props were still, you know, had the paint on them. So I texted James, said, sorry man, I don't know what I was looking at. I don't know what the video, maybe it was some kind of optical illusion, but this bottom looks fantastic. He said, great, all good. Now give me a bill, okay? So I went over and talked to the folks, you know, Shane and Gene again, and eventually I said, okay, I'm gonna go to the airport, and I'd agreed for them to, you know, since it's out of the water, you know, and I'm paying for a haul out, might as well do some work on it. So they had this stripe that my paint stripe along the bottom needed to be replaced, so they agreed to do that. Anyway, so I was walking back to pick up my bag and stuff, and the boat had dried by this point, and I looked over, and there was paint missing everywhere. Not everywhere, but in a lot of places. And I found the spots that I found on the video, and all of the places where they had put the pad, I call them the pads to hold the boat up, paint was coming off of it. And so I started taking pictures, and I sent them all. James said, hey James, I made a mistake. The boat dried, and this is what it revealed. He said, no problem, we'll get paint over, you guys take care of it. So I asked the folks at Mark, can you handle? Yeah, we'll take care of it. And so while I was gone, they repaired all that. It was a lot of the pads apparently either weren't prepared correctly before they painted them, right before they put it in the water. So my thinking is, why wouldn't you move the pads to do those areas? There's got to be a reason that they don't do that, because that's common sense to me. Maybe they don't want to put that pressure on the paint that's new paint. I don't know. At any rate, so the Mar folks fixed it, and I'm looking forward to the next opportunity that I get to be where I can get out of the boat, take another video of the bottom to see how it's holding up. James immediately says, you know, sometimes the paint just won't stick to a freshwater bottom. It's supposed to, but sometimes it doesn't. So I'm hoping it does, and we don't have an issue going forward. In a month, I'm going to have the bottom cleaned, or at least inspected by a diver. I'll get him to do video for me if I can't get it to a place where I can see it myself. Anyway, so that's the paint situation on the bottom. But like I said, I just can't be more pleased with the boat and the way it performed.